Haters eating good tonight.
Haters eating
Rachel, because that's all we're doing today.
Good.
How do you feel about that?
I'm interested to see what trends you don't like.
Oh, well.
Spoilers, sorry.
I'm really curious to see what you don't like. I think
like.
we're both very complainy people. I don't know if you've ever picked that up on this podcast. We like to complain. We're going to be the haters today.
We have a very complainy editor, too.
Yeah.
Oh, look at her.
Star Wars, Transformers, Godzilla, animation, whatever else. Rebels, robots, and etc.
Well, haters gonna hate and podcasters gonna podcast. It's Starformers night. Welcome to Rebels and Robots and etc. episode 68. I'm Cameron.
I'm Rachel.
What are you laughing about, Rachel?
I can't say it yet.
Because we're one episode short.
I can't say it yet.
It's our bi-weekly chat about Star Wars and
Transformers,
etc. Yeah, Transformers, Godzilla, animation, just whatever else we both want to talk about. Normally things we both like. Today, we're both going to talk about some things we hate, and we're going to see what the crossover is, see if maybe we have some new material for the podcast, because 2025 is looking kind of bare. Though we will have a Jurassic Park movie looking at 2025, but as far as like everything is slowed down, we got some news.
I have so much news, Cameron.
Well, that there has been quite a bit of news in the last 2 weeks. So let's just let's jump into it.
Andor Season 2 is coming out April 22nd of next year.
True. Say the date again.
April 22nd.
April 22nd. All right.
2025.
That's a little later than our, the first 2 years we had our like early beginning of the year show with Bad Batch.
I mean, we'll have Skeleton Crew.
But that only goes like 2 weeks into January.
I know.
So it won't take us too far into the year.
Crap, we can watch a lot of Transformers shows in between that.
That's technically true, yes.
Cameron says with tears in his eyes and through gritted teeth.
This is as good of a time as any to start looking at 2025 movies. Just let's look at the beginning of the year, maybe between Skeleton Crew and Andor. That's a pretty close proximity for two live action shows for Star Wars.
Disney also announced sometime in 2025, no official date, but Visions Volume 3 will come out next year.
Yeah, I saw that today. That's exciting. I honestly did not anticipate that.
Me
but that
either.
Is
I'm guessing.
Super cool.
I mean, I think it's honestly, both volumes have been hits. I think all of the episodes are fairly fresh. People enjoy them.
Yeah, absolutely. Though I've not gone back to them. I think that's something I would enjoy doing.
Yeah.
Is going back and watching them again.
But they posted some of a few of the companies involved. You've got production, I think IG, David Production, Kamikaze Dauga and Anima, Project Studio Q, Trigger Studio, which I think have been there before. I don't know if that's Kinema or Cinema, Citrus Company, Polygon Pictures, Wit Studio. I didn't scroll to the second one, so there may be more. It's
a new Smurfs movie next year. I'm not saying we should cover it. I'm just quite... It's got Kurt Russell. It's got our boy Kurt Russell in it.
I'd like to nix that right
now. Yeah, next year... Though there is, I will say, this is so important to me, I might force us to cover it. It might depend on how it's like. There is a new Superman movie next year.
Superman.
Which is the first time there's been a Superman-only movie since Man of Steel, which was 2013.
Do we count Brightburn?
No, we don't count Brightburn.
Throwback to when we saw movies in theaters.
Yeah, really. So, yeah, I'm not really seeing a lot of movies next year that really fall, other than the aforementioned Jurassic World 4. Yeah, not... Now, something that I really considered putting on my hate list, I don't hate them enough to really put on the list, but Now You See Me 3 comes out next year. I really despise that movie. Like, really despise it.
It's not like the heist movie, but it's like magicians.
Yeah, I think the second one's more of a heist movie. I've not seen the second one. The first one is, they are a group of magicians, and they have some sort of scheme that they're trying to pull. Anyways, so very obviously very excited. Oh, there's a new SpongeBob movie next year. What the heck?
Hey, did you know SpongeBob the movie turned 20?
Their first movie? Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
You're welcome.
Wow.
You're welcome for that.
So Andor season 2, I mean, man, we're going to peak real early next year. Do we know how many episodes it is? 12 episodes like the last season, probably?
I believe it's another 12, but each 3 episodes is an arc, and then a year passes. Nice.
Sounds good. There is a new Predator movie next year, though we didn't even talk about Alien, but...
new Alien show coming out, Alien Earth.
That's true.
Which...
could be interesting.
I thought Alien Earth was going to be a movie. Maybe they made it into a show.
I don't know what this movie is, but it's just called David. Oh, by Angel Studios, so it's probably David from the Bible. Well, that does fall under our shared interest.
I thought they were making a movie over the character David from Alien Prometheus and Covenant.
Oh, funny.
The android.
That is funny.
I was like, well, what? I was like,
So we've got confirmed 2 Star Wars shows for next year: Andor season 2
confirmed.
And Visions Volume 3. What other news you got?
Actor Tony Todd died in the last 2 weeks.
Who's that?
I'm so glad you asked. He's had 2 performances in Transformer franchises. He voiced the Fallen in Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen.
Oh, crazy.
And he also voiced a Decepticon named Dreadwing in Transformers Prime.
Nice. I do recognize him. He's very famous for the horror icon Candyman.
Yes.
That's wild. The Fallen. What an interesting voice performance that is. I'm trying to see if there's anything else.
He was only like 70.
Oh, he's the voice of Venom in the Spider-Man 2 PS5 game, like the newest Spider-Man 2 video game. Those games are hard to talk about as far as title because it's just called Spider-Man 2. Megan will appreciate he was the villain Zoom in the Flash TV show.
Oh.
I'm trying to see if there's anything else related to this podcast. Do you ever do anything related to Star Wars? Star Trek and Stargate. And was he ever in a Godzilla thing? No?
Athena answered that one for you. She said no.
Okay. What other news you got?
That's it.
That's it for news.
That's it for me.
I feel like those were 2 big ones. Oh, we may have talked about this in the last episode. I don't remember. Did we? That they technically okay. Anything that gets announced as far as Star Wars, if it's just simply announcing that it exists, I don't think it counts. But just for the sake of this is a short news segment, so it's a slow news episode. Disney did technically announce another Star Wars trilogy.
Oh, I literally have that screenshot and I just totally forgot about it.
Under Simon Kinberg.
Yes.
Who is, to me, most famous for working on the X-Men movies. But it wasn't until I heard on a podcast he helped create Rebels, which makes it a lot more exciting for me.
Oh.
I would not give him...
It's a trilogy about cows.
Well, it's always hard to decipher like what is rumors and what is officially confirmed. Is supposedly episode 10, 11, and 12. Yeah. It is supposedly a continuation of the Skywalker saga. Honestly, at this point, I'm done speculating as to whether something will be good or not. Just give us some dang Star Wars movies.
I was going to say, I'm done speculating on if a movie is going to come out. Yeah. Apparently, The Mandalorian Grogu is still slated for 2026. Yeah. I really don't know what they're going to do in that movie.
Probably sell some merch. Yeah, beat me to it. Yeah. But
we should get Athena merch.
My biggest thought in relationship to this new Star Wars trilogy is, are we going to set a new record for distance between something being announced and something being canceled?
Well, yeah, probably because by the time they come out, It's going to be in like the 30s.
It kind of feels like every time they announce a new thing, it kind of feels like they've quietly canceled everything else they've previously announced, because this does seemingly override the Rey. If she's going to be a main character in this, that does seemingly override the other Rey movie, or it indicates, are there like competing scripts? Are there like writing teams within Lucasfilm that have competing ideas that, like, whoever can get it finished first wins?
I don't know
like,
how
is
I
it the
feel
Hunger
about that.
Games at Lucasfilm now? Which makes me think, I was about to say at Lucas Ranch, does Lucasfilm, where are their offices at? I have no idea. Skywalker Ranch, thank you. Yeah. Where is Lucasfilm now?
Lucas Ranch. In the basement.
I guess the question is, did Lucas sell the ranch along with all of Lucasfilm?
No, I don't think so.
I don't know.
They still do sound editing at Skywalker Ranch.
I know that. That's funny that you say that, because a director was on a podcast recently and he was talking about being there to sound mix his movie.
Maybe Lucas just like lives there and there's like multiple houses and he's kind of like the ghost that shows up sometimes. Like, you know, like there's like a guest house that's like the main building with all the equipment, and he just kind of shows up, helps himself to the refreshments and leaves.
Have you ever seen that footage of where he walks in the background of that documentary?
Yeah.
It's like that. He just wanders through trying not to be seen.
He looks
in his
so
pajamas.
Afraid. It's like, you know what I mean? He looks like, the expression on his face looks like he thought they were trying to film him. It's totally, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The way he's like direct
That's the
eye
issue
contact.
with being so famous, is like you're going to be right most of the time, and when you're wrong, you're still paranoid.
It's really just like, it's like George Lucas. It's a jump scare, really. I have a friend, I don't know if she posted it. We did a Star Wars themed
Yes.
we did a Star Wars themed costume party. She showed up as George Lucas. It was so funny.
Oh yeah, I think you've talked about this.
I probably have, because it was honestly the best costume, and I was actually bummed because if I'd known she was going to show up as him, I would have shown up as Dave Filoni, because I have the hat.
I've Google searched Transformers news just to see, and there's an article. The Transformers movie's weirdest mystery was never solved, but it was forgotten. Now I'm intrigued by what the heck that means. Oh, it looks like it's like... I think it's just about how the fact that Barricade just disappeared from the movies.
Oh. Yeah, he really kind of dipped.
That always stood out to me, just because he was I only owned 2 toys, Transformers toys, and one was Barricade from the movie.
Wild.
And that was because Mustang's my favorite kind of car, and that's what he is in the movie.
You're like, oh yeah, that slaps.
And so when he just doesn't show up again, and he briefly shows up in like what, 5?
Yeah, he just shows back up again.
Very unceremoniously as well. Well, cool. Are you ready to move on to this week's subject? So there's really not a lot of boundaries on this. This is just stuff we hate. Whatever that means. And we're going to see if there's any inadvertent crossover, and then that will become podcast canon for future topics potentially. Go ahead and please start us off, Rachel.
Unnecessary sexualization of female characters. And I'm looking directly at the Michael Bay Transformers films. We should have like a bingo card thing where it's like, or like a mark-off game. Whoever gets a bingo first on topics we hate for each other wins.
You can answer this question as little or as much as you want, or just totally ignore it. You say unnecessary sexualization. What would you say is the difference between, quote, necessary? Like, what is the dividing line there? Like, what brings it into this category specifically?
Well, first of all, I don't think including women in movies is inherently sexual.
Fair.
Like
Fair.
some people would think. Nor do I think it's an attack on men.
No, it definitely is. 100%.
They can exist. It's the sweaty, oiled up, leaning over cars that I don't like. Mm-hmm. What's actually comes to mind, that's my knuckles.
We know. Thank you.
Is The beginning scene in Transformers 3 in Sam and Carly's apartment, and she just randomly like is pantsless, wearing his shirt, and like wakes him up by climbing on top of him.
This is the character introduction.
Yeah, that's
New
the character.
female lead.
Because it's the whole. You have like such intense whiplash because you're like, what the who's that?
Yeah,
Honestly, good for Michaela. Honestly, good for her for running away. Red flags galore. You have that. You have the whole in like just wild scene in the second movie with the chick that's actually a robot from the college.
Oh, absolutely.
That's
a wild scene.
I mean, yeah. So it's absolutely unnecessary. Like, why?
Yeah. No, it's pretty awful.
I'm trying to think if there's I don't know if like 4 and 5 are they're just bad. But you have that really weird Romeo and Juliet clause. It's like, to me that excuse me. To me that feels like an excuse of going, oh shoot, I wrote these characters to date while one was underage and one was a totally legal adult, so we have to like flash and make sure this character's not a pedophile or a statutory rapist.
No, and this is, I mean, if we're coming from our perspective of like looking at the deeper implications of media, we have to talk about like how the movies we're talking about, like how they reflect deeper truths. The deeper evil of this is it's just dehumanizing to women. It makes it as though that this is the only reason they exist.
And they didn't do it to Charlie in Bumblebee.
Yes, thankfully, because they actually took the critical feedback. I'm like racking
my brain for half a second, like, did they? But no, they didn't.
I would say no. Because she is the main character. Yes. It's not like she's not the boyfriend of the main character. Though
the boyfriend of the main
the girlfriend of the main character. Yeah. They do manage to get the boy's shirt off, which is like it's mostly played for laughs, and it's not nearly it's not the same, but it is interesting how like even the movies with better intentions still end up sexualizing young people and kind of like trying to humiliate them. It is interesting that no matter what, Hollywood films tend to struggle to not drag that in for no reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, it makes it so these women characters are objects. It makes it so that this is their only appeal. It makes it so that women who don't look like that struggle to get roles. Like, I wish I could remember what the movie was. I was watching something recently.
Rise of the Beast doesn't do it.
Yeah, that's true. I'm now, to be fair, like, that none of the human characters are memorable at all in that movie, but it is a more respectable film in that sense. I was watching some movie and I thought at first, like, wow, these people look really weird. And I realized, no, they look like normal people. This movie has chosen to not hire gorgeous human beings to represent normal people. You were saying?
I was saying, yeah, Rise of the Beast didn't do it. But yeah, makes me mad.
Understandable.
I'm trying to think if there are other movies that have done it.
I mean, obviously horror films are infamous for it.
Well, I think one of the things that, take this with a grain of salt because the Aliens franchise is a lot.
That's where my brain went as well,
but
actually.
They didn't do it to Sigourney Weaver. If anything, I think they got complaints that she wasn't hot enough.
Yeah. Well, what's really interesting about that is two things. One, from everything I've ever heard, and I don't know if this is true, this might be just like a story someone told, but like supposedly all the roles in that original movie were written gender neutral, and they just cast whoever they thought was the best role. And then, but secondly, she kind of does famously like strip down, not fully naked at the end, but she's in just a shirt and underwear.
Oh, for the
but
cryo
it's not
sleep.
Sexual.
No.
It's this iconic image of just like it's just her.
It's jammies.
It's like it's a way of having a woman's body presented on screen, but not in a sexual way.
Yeah.
Which is kind of incredible, honestly. In a genre like the movie actually is weirdly sexual in other ways. Like that is famous for its like sexual undertones with the alien design.
Yeah, the whole.
But it's interesting that is there, that there's a component of sexuality there, but not when they depict the woman in her underwear at the end. That's wild. But yeah, I think it's like this is where we kind of get in the divide of like,
not to praise Ridley Scott for treatment of women, but just kind of like interesting.
You get this interesting divide between being overly sensitive and being like just allowing everything. There's obviously space in between, and the human body should be able to. There's a artistic way to present the human body on screen. Nudity, I would say, or at least like partial nudity, is not inherently bad. This is an example of that. Of like there is a, I would say, narrative reason. Like what we're talking about with the baddies in the Transformers movies is there is no reason to show these women in the way.
There's no reason to show women. I'm kidding.
And ironically, actually, Transformers movies, they normally have more clothes on. It's the shaping of the clothes and it's the way they're contorting their body and the way they're shot. Whereas Ripley at the end of Alien 1 is barely wearing anything, but it does not feel exploitative. It feels like a narrative of this character has fought so hard to survive, and now she's at her most vulnerable moment, and this is the final confrontation. It's so good. That original Alien movie is incredible. Good point. None of mine are that deep. Mine are more specific. No, I'm glad. Mine are more specific franchises or genres. When I was trying to write, I had some stuff in my back of my mind, but I did not start writing things down until earlier today. And as I was thinking through it, I was thinking through things that really bugged me, things that really get under my skin. Not just stuff I didn't enjoy, but stuff that like I find is harmful to modern movies, especially. And there was two franchises, one pretty much a franchise that was in the back of my mind rolling around. And then I decided I keep track of my movies. I rank all the movies I watch by year. Those are like all the movies from 2022, all 23. I rank from best to worst. And I keep those in separate lists. I keep best in one list and worst in another list. And I was scrolling through my worst list to kind of get an idea of like what stuff really bugs me. And it was funny enough, those three things I just mentioned that were rolling in the back of my head, my initial reaction. 2022, I only have 3 movies on my worst list, and all 3 were from that. So I'm kind of using 2022 as my structure. So number 3 on that list was the live-action Pinocchio remake. Oh. And this is not too hot of a take, but just the Disney live-action remake movies. They bug the absolute crap out of me. Just their existence. And I might be a bit of a hypocrite here. I haven't really seen that many of them, but the ones I have seen, I hate.
Do you remember when you asked me my thoughts on the Lion King remake and I sent you an actual essay?
Yes.
And you're like, oh.
Yeah, you get the Lion King, the ones I have seen.
How do you take a 90-minute movie, put it into 2 hours, and not actually add anything to the plot?
And I'm not even, this is not something I like cherish. Like most of the time the movies they're remaking, I have not even seen or don't care about. Other than Lion King. I love Lion King, but like...
Big fan.
And I don't even think remaking them is necessarily the worst thing in the world. Like anything can be good if it's done for a reason. Like I think Andor is an incredible example of a show that none of us thought we wanted and turned out to be one of the best Star Wars things, period. But the Lion King things, they really own... Like because they are such shot-for-shot remakes, they are bland... Like they are straight up just retreads, but then they end up making so much money. Like I guess that's really what bugs me is like, Hollywood's gonna make crap. It's gonna happen. But then when people go and see them, that's what really gets under my skin. Like the fact that both Aladdin and Lion King, which came out within like a month and a half, the remakes in 2019, both came out within a month and a half of each other, and both made over $1 billion. That is asinine. Like that is so like there are so many things you can throw at our culture that like that to me is so objectively our culture is so broken. Like I totally understand as I get older, I have less time, less free time. Like when I was in college, I had so much free time and so much money to spend and so much of a desire to see movies in theaters. Now I have less free time. My money is more budgeted.
Everything's so expensive.
Yeah, exactly. Towards more responsible things. And I just don't go to the movie theater as much. And so I understand that if you don't go to the movie theater very often, you get safer. You choose safer things. But this is the worst kind of safe because you're going to see just a straight up worse version of an already existing movie. This is also obvious, but this one is the first one on the list for me. That Pinocchio one is especially bad because it is ugly. And I don't know if you agree with it. I would think that also the Lion King one is ugly.
You have seen... I'm pointing towards my own cat. You have seen how... and you own a cat now. They are so expressive.
Yes.
Like, you have seen... with this one especially. She's like a cartoon character, you know what I mean? But cats are so expressive in their body language and in their faces. Like, I'm looking at you. She's ignoring me. And you don't get that with the live action. Okay. And also, for reference, we know they're not live action. Yeah. But it's easier than saying 3D CGI realism. Animals are so expressive, and you have none of that in the Lion King movie. I think the scene that sticks out the most to me when Mufasa falls in the 90s movie, there's a very it's a fast zoom.
Absolutely.
Zooming in on Simba, and he's distraught, obviously. I mean, valid reaction. And you don't get even a percentage of that same amount of emotion in the live action. Or when, I remember thinking when the wildebeest are running down that cliff towards him, they didn't even pin his ears back.
Wild.
I remember noticing that so bad. I'm like, so much expression goes into an animal based on their ear. Like, I'm looking at, she's gone. She moved. Like, so much. They're so visual with their body language that it's like all they focused on were like the opening of the eyes. And it don't work.
I agree.
You've seen the way she side eyes up. Like,
oh, absolutely.
Like,
what movies do you hate, Athena? Movies that cause you not to be fed, probably, I'd assume.
Actually, her love language is me sitting down on the couch and watching a movie. I'm being genuinely serious. She likes to sit on my lap.
I love it. What's next on your list?
Killing off female characters for male growth.
The fridging effect.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Transformers is really good at this.
The movies or the cartoons?
Yeah. Alita 1 dies in so many franchises.
That's true. Yes, the female Transformers specifically.
The War for Cybertron Netflix trilogy, which... I heard someone say that was fire yesterday, and I was like, ooh. I just want to call it the. Sorry, I have so much money on my table. Kidding. I dropped a coin. That was like the major plot point. Spoilers. You're not gonna watch. Did you watch it? I don't know. It's so bad.
You've ranted about it so badly.
It is a show I don't care about. Like, just because Rooster Teeth makes shows doesn't mean they should have a Netflix special. But that's just me. Might get flamed on the internet for that one. They do it there. Transformers Prime actually almost did it before they cut that. But that was a plan that they were interesting. They were going to have at least a mention of it, not actually do it. It's just, it happens a lot. And I think, unfortunately, part of that is probably stems from so much of the source material of G1, where there are actually it's all male, all dudes. Yeah. And then later on, they introduced the concept of female Transformers, and there's so few that unfortunately led to like the unintentional fridging of half of a population.
Yeah.
So there's like, darn you 80s toy sales. It's extremely frustrating. I think you could probably even maybe argue Padme a bit. You could argue Satine in Clone Wars.
Yeah, see, that's hard with Padme because it's a prequel, and originally it was written that both Anakin and I don't even know when Padme got her name, but like Luke's parents were both originally dead.
Yeah.
And so I would say, at least conceptually with the prequel trilogy, Padme is her own character. She does...
true.
As much as a prequel character who we know eventually dies can be, They have their own motivations. They used her as the formation of the rebellion, which obviously is unfortunately heavily cut from Revenge of the Sith.
It's in the book, though, if you read the novelization.
Yeah. So, what was the other example you gave?
Satine from Clone Wars, Obi-Wan's
that
girlfriend.
One, yeah. That one, I would say that character was probably created. See, Padme was not created with the concept of she is this. Satine, I can see that was like when they created that character, like this is because. Yeah, I think that would probably fall into that.
It's kind of like something has to happen to her anyway because Obi-Wan goes into exile on Tatooine.
Exactly. Yeah.
To watch Luke. I'm trying to think of other examples. I think it happens a lot in the Marvel comics. That's where it's from.
Yeah.
Fridging.
Well, I think it was actually from a Green Lantern comic.
Was it Green Lantern?
So DC. It was superhero comics, though. Yeah.
It's the same thing.
But
can you consider Batgirl getting somewhat fridged when she was?
I would say the way Batgirl gets eventually paralyzed feels very reminiscent of that. Though, yeah, it's not a love interest role, but then the infamous animated. So that was originally happened in the Killing Joke comic, the infamous animated version of that. They did make her and Batman a romantic relationship. So they somehow managed to fit that into a story that was already dangerously close. Yeah, no, that's a good example. Yeah, I think those are. So what would you say is what really annoys you about this? Like fundamentally.
A lot of times it's just it kind of look. I'm not saying female characters can't die in movies. I'm not saying that. Like, I'm not saying women are exempt from death in franchises and movies. But the creation of a female character just to kill her off, to make the main character sober up or go, oh, she believed in me the whole time. I'm going to be the good guy she believed me to be, or I'm going to venture. It just feels, it's like useless. Like, it just feels like unnecessary.
Yeah,
it's like
that's fair.
This is the turning point object that spurs our hero on.
Yeah. Next on my list, so my number 2 worst movie for 2022 is one of 2 movies that are part of a series that I really, really hate, which is the Jurassic World sequels. There's the different tiers for me of the Jurassic Park movies.
Is that Fallen Kingdom and Dominion?
Correct. The original one, S-tier film, one of my favorite movies of all time.
Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah, that's Jurassic World.
Hey, you know what? Actually, funnily enough, not to go back to fridging, but in Jurassic World, the babysitter, the 2 boys, so she dies in a horrific way. You maybe consider that fridging, except she requested to go off in a horrible way.
Yeah.
People give Trevorrow, is that Trevorrow?
No, that's... Oh, it is. Yeah. Yep.
Colin
Colin
Trevorrow. Crap, like, holy crap, he must hate women. No, she requested to go out in a horribly brutal way.
Yeah. What I think people didn't like about that was it made it seem as though she kind of deserved it because she'd been kind of annoying up to that point. But like, she had not done anything
to
deserving of that. But yeah, she requested.
Well, because
in
the previous movies, most of the bad guys, like you think of the guy who kidnapped the baby T-Rex in Lost World, got by the baby T-Rex. You have a lot of like swift justice in some of those movies, but yeah, you watch that and you're like, oh my gosh.
But so the original movies all time great. 2 and 3 I think are fine. Like, I don't hate them. Like, if they were only 3 that existed, I would probably hate them a lot. But in comparison to what comes after, Jurassic World is slightly under that. I don't hate it, but I don't like it at all. I really think it's a pale imitation of the original one. But then there is just this bottom depths of whatever rating system you want to use for Fallen Kingdom and I'm already blanking. Dominion, right? Is that just I think what really frustrates me about them is they fall into this category of movie which feels like you're gonna see this no matter what. Like what took me until the last Jurassic World movie to realize is no one else makes dinosaur movies. You think that would be a whole genre?
The Sci-Fi Channel made a lot of them.
I'm talking about theatrically released. Like Jurassic Park literally has a monopoly on dinosaur movies, and It's crazy. So that means that they can do whatever they want. People, I mean, it shows. This goes back to what I talk about with the Disney animated remakes, live action remakes making so much money. All 3 Jurassic World movies made $1 billion worldwide. Like, it's so insane. It shows that there's such a demand. Like, I think people are so want to see dinosaur stuff that they are willing to go and watch absolute crap because I saw all 3 in theaters. I actually had a pretty good time with Jurassic World because I was like pleasantly surprised. It wasn't until I tried to rewatch that I was like, oh, this is crap. I don't have any desire to watch this.
Children yearn for the dinos.
It's very so true. That's the other thing is there's the world could use slightly kid-friendlier ones because people are taking their children to see the Jurassic Park movies because kids love dinosaurs, but they are fundamentally horror films. At least the dinosaur parts often are. At least the predatory, the carnivorous ones. We're going to talk about it. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Sometime next year in the lead up to the new Jurassic Park, we will talk about these movies.
We
can
talk about the ethics and morals of cloning humans.
Sure. What's next on your list?
This is just very specific because it was just so recent. I really don't like when you're sitting in a movie and you're like 15 minutes from the end and you realize, oh, I'm going to have to come back for another movie.
Yeah.
Across the Spider-Verse did that to me. I was very frustrated. I don't know. It just like, it frustrated me where I was sitting and I went, oh, we're not getting like a cohesive ending, kind of like the third, like the first one did. This is a part 2 or this is a part 1.
Yeah.
And I don't mind obviously like sequels and trilogies, but I think there's something that's a little frustrating when it's not just a 1, 2, and 3, but it seems like it says it's a 1, 2, and 3. It's very obviously a 1, 2, and 2.1 kind of movie, and that just kind of frustrates me because I'm like, oh man, I don't know. It's just kind of like
no, I can totally see that. I mean, especially when it's like not because I watched that movie and I look forward to seeing the next one to see. I think what you do in that situation is you set yourself up that if the next one is not very good or is worse in varying degrees of worse, it will inherently diminish the first one. Like no matter what, Across the Spider-Verse is a very entertaining movie.
Yeah.
But because it lacks an ending, whatever the second part is, it will fundamentally undermine the quality of this one. So no matter how much you like Across the Spider-Verse, whenever you rewatch it in the future, if the next one's not very good or is just not as good, it will diminish that one. Unlike
who knows
what I would say, it's a bummer that Episode 9 sucks. Rise of Skywalker. But I feel like Episode 7 and 8 tell enough of a self-contained story that I think it does not diminish those too much. Now, that is part of a trilogy and it does diminish them to some degree. I do watch 7 and 8 and be like, you know what? There is a story here and I really enjoy this story. Or like Jurassic Park, for example. The sequels being absolute garbage does not diminish. And if anything, it makes the original one better because that original one is so self-contained, has such a strong ending, is such a great movie.
Because it's based off a book.
Yeah. It is very possible for a sequel to not diminish the quality of the previous ones, even if they retcon stuff, because you can ignore that. Whatever the Beyond the Spider-Verse is, it will inherently undermine if it's not as good. So I totally agree with that. And actually, did you have more examples on that? Because that transitions into one of my points.
No, but it also kind of transitions in one of mine. So I'm kind of curious what yours is.
Similar is like sequel bait franchises, which is, again, this is another really obvious one, but it does just like so specifically bug me. This is actually was going to be my big point at the end, but it transitioned so nice. I have another one that I can end on that really I want to rail on. Sequel bait to me, at least the worst examples, is when they make a first movie and they withhold things.
I have that one.
And what this bugs me is it goes back to what I just said about the Jurassic World sequels is like, you're going to see this no matter what. We know you could and also to me, it's like one of the major issues with modern video games is DLC, downloadable content, is that it used to be DLC was like additional campaign missions, additional maps, additional things. But obviously the major issue with modern DLC is they're just selling you they initially sell you an incomplete game and they sell you the pieces to finish the game. Very frustrating.
So I'm playing a game right now, Rise of the Tomb Raider, which is the second game. Ironically, it's not named like it.
Of the new franchise.
Of the new franchise one.
Yeah.
And there's a DLC that I got for free. It's just an addition. It does not change the story in any way. And I'm like, that's how DLC.
Well, free is one thing.
I got
if
it probably
you
wasn't
got it
free.
free. It wasn't free originally.
I
see.
don't know.
Yeah, if free DLC is whatever to me. And is great. Like you're just adding on to the game. That's fine.
Yeah, it's an
when
addition.
it's paid. It's when they're trying to get. I guess my whole point here is they're trying to get more money out of you. If they're charging you for additional DLC, they figured out how to do that with movies. By you want to see. I mean, to me, again, I keep coming back to stuff I really don't care about, but oftentimes that is what makes the fact that I'm mad about it shows how badly they did. The first Sonic movie, I don't like Sonic at all. Like I have no love for this, but like other franchises, like for example, a different example of something I don't care about at all, but like actually suckered me in, Detective Pikachu. I have zero love for Pokemon, but like I really enjoyed that movie when I saw it in theaters. Like I just like thought it was a fun exploration of the world, and was like I did a good job of like making a movie based on Pokemon. It's not a great film, but I enjoyed it and it tells a story. Sonic, on the other hand, the very little I know about Sonic, I could tell, like, as someone who does not play Sonic games, knows very little about Sonic, I know Sonic has this huge cast of sidekick characters, and none of them are in that first movie. They are literally, it is like bare bones. It is just Sonic and Dr. Robotnik, and then they tease Tails and Knuckles, and then like it takes into the third one to have Shadow. I refused to watch those sequels because I saw what they were doing. Like now, obviously, there are some things that like have to be a franchise, like the Avengers, for example. You can't put every single Marvel character in the first Avengers movie. There's a big difference.
Cowards.
There's a huge difference between having a stripped down, simplified first movie so that you can build on top of it. Because like for example, the Avengers, that first movie, you could have just that first movie and you'd walk away saying, hey, that was a really good Avengers film. We got the base characters. If they never made another one, that's okay. They made that one and it tells a story, a very basic superhero story. Sonic, on the other hand, if that was the only Sonic movie that ever existed, you'd be like, what is this crap? No, it would not be your basic movie. Like, it's kind of like, Transformers. You feel like you got the characters you really want to see in that first movie for the most part. Like that you would, if they only ever made the first Transformers film, disregarding quality, you'd be like, hey, this is, as opposed to like, let's say Bumblebee was the only Transformers movies that ever existed. You'd be like, what is this?
Yeah.
Well, it's just Bumblebee. That's what Sonic is. Even though he's the main character, it's just him. And so many other series do this. The live action, I feel like the live action Ninja Turtles did it because Ninja Turtles are also famous for all of their other characters. Like, it almost feels like they're making a movie that they know people won't like that much, so they can promise a better one.
I put, not in that same vein, I put The Acolyte under this.
Absolutely.
Sequel
100%.
bait of, if you give us a second sequel, we'll get into really cool stuff. That's how that read to me at that point.
I totally agree.
I'm trying to think of some other examples that I think are similar. Alien Prometheus. That's not the top. Prometheus and Alien Covenant.
Absolutely.
We're going to talk about the engineers. We're not actually going to talk about the engineers. We're going to give you a little tidbit. Okay, but what about the aliens role? Well, here's your alien. Okay, but we're still not going to hear. Yeah, and that was the start of a trilogy. Who knows if that's actually going to get a third one? I don't think so. It's just that's
so true. And that falls under prequels. Solo does the same thing. If you make a prequel that's so far back, they're like, okay, we're going to really build up to the original thing. We're going to go so far back that there's a bunch of stuff in the middle. Like, imagine if they had only ever made The Phantom Menace. You'd be like, what? This doesn't explain anything.
The Mummy reboot.
Yeah, I'm looking at a list. That's really funny that you mentioned that because that is on here.
I'm also looking at a list.
Now, that one is setting up a series. I'm sure that's bad. I've not seen the movie itself. That seems like a little bit different to me in the sense of it is less withholding stuff and more just showing you so many little tidbits of ideas. Because if you don't know, listener, the Mummy 2017 movie was supposed to be the new in a series called The Dark Universe, where they were going to go back, kind of an interesting idea, and it's very, very core, which is back in like the 30s and 40s, all Universal Studios, their monster movies were interconnected. Now, I actually do not know how they were interconnected, but like actually what you'd have is like Frankenstein versus the Mummy. Like they'd have the Frankenstein monster and the
Pure
Mummy
cinema.
and Dracula, and they would cross them over. They would have them fight. I don't know what those movies are like at all. I just know that it was like, that's considered the original cinematic universe. So they were going to try and bring that into the modern day like Marvel did. Except for the fact that no one liked Mummy 2017. It didn't make any money, and they never made another movie in the series. But they had little hints. In it, now I'm talking about a movie I've never seen before, so feel free to correct me on any of this, Rachel. Their Nick Fury-esque character who was going to be the one bringing all these characters together was Dr. Jekyll, aka Mr. Hyde, played by Russell Crowe, and he has a room full of little things teasing the other monster movies that they're going to do.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, you haven't seen it either?
Another sequel bait that, sorry, not to cut you off.
Well, real fast, I just want to go back to Solo. Is another example of a prequel that is so sure it's going to have sequels that it went too far back. And, well, we like Solo for the most part, but it does... The fact that it never got its sequels means that it is severely lacking in things that it should contain.
Yeah.
But you were going to say...
Ironically, to go back to the other Mummy franchise, the third one directly baited a fourth movie, and then the third one bombed.
Yeah.
And they never did it. But the Mummy franchise with Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz, great first one. Second one, it's not like terrible. You do have a pretty horrific rendition of Dwayne The Rock Johnson in PS2 graphics. And then their son, who's not like terrible, but sometimes it's hard to balance throwing a 10-year-old kid into things. But also 10-year-olds are annoying in most iterations of them anywhere in real life and in movies. And then the third one is way in the future with their son grown up. And they've also replaced Rachel Weisz, I think, because she didn't look old enough.
Are you serious?
I think so. I don't know if it was
That's
that
crazy.
Google, or maybe it was
I would have assumed it was just because she didn't want to be in it.
Maybe it was, I thought it was,
Let's see. This says she didn't like the script.
Oh, didn't want to play a character with a 21-year-old son. But it's just, it's not the same. It's hard. And so the end, it also takes place in China. Well, it's not the Scorpion. It's something.
The Tomb of the Emperor or something.
Tomb of
the Dragon Emperor.
I have it on DVD somewhere. I go pull it up. And it ends specifically with the uncle character saying, "I'm going to go where there's no mummies, Peru." Do you know it's in Peru?
Yeah, the people who were like enclosed
I was
from the volcano.
Just saying, you go anywhere with an ancient civilization,
Oh, wait.
there's probably going to be mummies.
Yeah.
Anyways, direct. See, also that movie bomb. No one liked that movie. Yeah. So it obviously didn't get its fourth one, but it's very similar. Like, come back next time. We're going to another continent.
Yeah. So it's just it. Oftentimes, the ones I'm talking about, like Sonic, like Solo, like The Acolyte, it's fundamental in the structure of the thing itself. It's not just little, like, yes, they're annoying when they throw little tags on at the end to tease a sequel that never happens. But like when the plot itself is structured around the assumption that there will be more and they are withholding things, it just, I don't like someone just assuming I'm going to watch this no matter what. That sucks. Taking your viewers for your audience for granted and just writing it. I am what on the far end of what I hate in media is television shows that go on too long. On the other end of things I love is movies that are nice and concise and well-paced and short and singular. These are the two opposite ends of media for me. this pushes movies on the other end of TV shows that go on too long is they're stretched out. There's too much in them. I mean, go back into to Spider-Verse. I love Into the Spider-Verse so much. I really enjoy Across the Spider-Verse, but it does feel way too long and poorly paced. And if the third one was really, really good, I would justify it. If it's not so good, I'm going to look back at Across the Spider-Verse and think, man, this actually probably should have been one movie and is way worse. So I'm reiterating myself, but I think it ties back in. I'm just going to throw out a random stray and not even explain it. I just really hate the Hunger Games movies a lot.
Really?
I like the books good enough.
You read the books?
Yeah, I was in middle school and high school when they were coming out, and like I thought they were fine.
Take you for a book reader.
I've read plenty of books. I thought the books were entertaining. The movies, to me, just rubbed me the wrong way. I don't hate.
Do you
them.
also think there's an interesting dichotomy of a series that is specifically against the showcasing and like popularization of the media to get that in the media?
Yes. No, it is an inherently contradictory series, especially as filmed.
Especially when they released the third movie, made a pop version song of the Hanging Tree song. Very capital energy. Big capital energy.
I just find those movies really boring, really poorly made, just really grating, just generic. It's just like... I just, every time I have ever been forced to watch them, I hate every single second of them. It just like, to me, they are not like, they're not absolute worst movies ever made, but like there is just zero redeeming qualities in them for me. That's random tray.
That is a hot take. I want to hear more about that. That's
because I've only like seen them for the most part. I've seen any given one of the movies twice at the absolute most.
It unfortunately also falls into the part 1 and part 2.
Yeah, that it would not save it 1 ounce if there was only 3. I mean, they have, I guess what part of it bugs me is a phenomenal cast, some great actors in there. You know what maybe be the one redeeming quality is that
we did get Gwendolyn Christie.
The one potentially redeeming quality for me is that Donald Sutherland's pretty good as President Snow, just because they just let him. He's the only character that to me that has any personality. Oh, do you know what? Tucci, our boy Tucci. That is one actually fun performance as the talk show host because it's Tucci. Because he's doing Tucci stuff and he's actually kind of phenomenal in those. Because again, everyone else is so just dour and sad and has no personality. He actually is too much personality.
Those movies belong to him.
What's your next on your list?
It kind of goes into this in the situation. Unnecessary universification of movies because like extended universes.
Yep.
Because unfortunately, it's kind of necessary for Marvel to do it. I am sick of movies coming out and then immediately going, I'm going to use the Barbie movie, for example.
Okay.
The Barbie movie came out and I saw, now these could be fake, but I saw reports that are like, Barbie movie did good. Mattel is now considering other toy movies.
Oh, so true.
And I'm like, shut up.
They literally said, I think the number was 47. Like they were like, we have dozens and dozens of different other... the worst phrase in the world, IP, intellectual property that we are considering making into movies.
Like, it's so annoying. Like, let movies exist. They don't have to suddenly become part of a bigger universe. And you know what? I wonder if we're going to see less of this because of the Marvel fatigue that I think a lot of people are experiencing. Now, Marvel movies are always going to make a lot of money. But like, I've seen a lot of conversation of it's just called Marvel fatigue. People are tired of all the projects coming out. Like that was one that I just thought that was dumb in like the first place. Another one, okay, the Joker movie. It came out and it's called Joker, and everyone's like, this is a Joker origin story. But then it wasn't actually a Joker origin story because it wasn't in the Batman universe.
Yeah.
But then they leaned into it and said, oh, we're gonna make a sequel where he like is the I didn't watch the second one, I'm gonna be honest.
No one did. Absolutely no one did. And by all accounts, it is god-awful.
And we're going to have a Harley Quinn, too. So it's like, okay, so now you're making it into a bigger universe situation.
Sure.
Where I kind of enjoyed the first one. I mean, I thought it was fine. I think it's not everything needs 20 movies.
Absolutely.
Let things sit and relax.
I will jump off of that is I really love superhero movies. Like I grew up like it was not that popular. It was, I mean, I guess it was one of those things of I was growing up right at the right time of like there was a good amount of superhero stuff, but it was mostly aimed at kids. And as I grew up, they started to make it more mature and aim at a slightly older audience. And it's a genre to me that I will always be interested in. But what really sucks is the knockoff stuff. To me, knockoff superhero movies really diminish the taste for it. Like pretty much what happens is you see it come in waves of someone makes a good superhero movie or couples of good superhero movies, then that company themselves makes awful sequels or other bad ones, or other companies start trying to get in and it floods the market and it ruins everyone's taste for superhero movies and they go away and they have to come back. And we're on a much longer cycle now, but like to me, Joker falls into that. Because it's bad. I really hate that first Joker movie, and I feel like it's a knockoff superhero movie because it is the director Todd Phillips feels like a very opportunistic con artist. He saw that superhero movies were popular and that he could make his edgy what's the term? Incel crime fantasy movie and make it as a Joker film. And now we're never like I don't know if a Joker origin movie would ever work. But someone who actually liked the character of the Joker.
Funny? He has origins.
Exactly.
He has origins.
Well, he actually really shouldn't have an origin, but at the very least, it should be really vague and not its own movie. But what I'm saying is now, because that movie did well, now we have Venom. Well, actually, Venom came out first, but like,
holy cow,
Venom is the other one.
A flopped franchise.
Oh, man, but they made 3 of them.
I know.
And I guess adjacent to this is because they're making their own Venom movies. They're not putting Venom in Spider-Man movies where he should be.
I know.
And then Carnage is not going to be in a Spider-Man movie where he should be because they've already used Carnage. And they're not going to put, we're not getting Joker. I mean, we will eventually get Joker in the Batman movies, but like, it sours the whole thing. It should all be one thing. Instead, they're trying to spread it out. Obviously, all of Sony's stuff, Morbius, hasn't come out, but Kraven the Hunter, Madam Web, but also like back in the day, you had you had the terrible Daredevil movie, you had its own spinoff Elektra movie, the Fantastic Four movies, like all these felt like they could do what back in the day it was Spider-Man and X-Men movies were the good ones. It just bugs the crap out of me because, and then even Marvel themselves then get too big in their head and they make things like Ant-Man, Quantumania, and terrible shows. All of this is to say, we could have I don't know. I feel like you have something more interesting to say than me because I'm lost in my own thoughts.
The Harry Potter franchise. You have the first 8 movies, and then the tie-in field guide, Fantastic Beasts and How to Find Them. 3 trilogy movie that went from just a quirky guy collecting animals to the start of World War II. Ugh, yikes.
Yep.
I don't know. That is I won't get too deep into that on this podcast, but that's first of all, weird take. Just like, you see by the end of the trilogy, it's a mess.
Absolutely.
Like, it's just, some things don't need to be blockbuster sequels. Let singular movies, they don't, like, you could have had a buddy cop movie of the main 2 guys trying to get to New Mexico to release that one animal and the 2 other female wizards chasing after them because one's a cop. She's not a cop. She's works for the ministry or whatever. Could have been fun. Road trip buddy cop movie. Seeing a bunch of wizard fauna. You have this weird insert of, ooh, this little boy is possessed by something. It's just, it doesn't have to be, there's so much. I mean, you could maybe even argue End of the Rise of the Beasts with the G.I. Joe.
Oh, absolutely.
And you know what?
Absolutely.
They did it in the comics. Hasbro owns it. They can do whatever they want. Hasbro has so many collaborations and crossovers.
It's the way in which they did it. It was nothing. It was literally just handing a card over with a logo. If I got a card and the G.I.
Joe logo was on it, I think I was being punked. I'd be like, are the Impractical Jokers here? That's what I would guess. And it's
really funny that you brought up the Fantastic Beasts series, because I did have that on here to bring us back to what I was saying at the beginning. My 3 worst movies of 2022. It was Pinocchio, Jurassic World Dominion, and number 1 was Crimes of Grindelwald.
I still have that picture of you falling asleep during Secrets of Dumbledore. We watched it.
Is that the third one?
That was the third one. Wait, we watched it in your old apartment. Was that Secret? Was it Crimes of Grindelwald? Maybe
I think it was. Do you know what's funny? I have it written down. I have Grimes of Grindelwald. I think Crimes of Grindelwald is the third one, and that's the one I fell asleep during. And this, I don't actually have any huge rail against this series. It's just bad. It just just like actually very similar to the Hunger Games movies. They just have nothing going on for me. The love story between the two characters in the first one is fun. The first one has some kind of redeeming qualities, but the 2 ones after that, I could not tell you anything that happened in them.
You fell asleep during one of them.
And I don't have any love for Harry Potter in the first place, so that was just the third one of those 3 worst movies of 2022 that really embodied those 3 series. Now, though, that is a series that we watched together, all 3 of them. And so if they ever do make another one, it is podcast material. I think we would have to cover it, and we would have fun crapping on it. Or whatever. I think, not that we love Harry Potter, but because we specifically watched those 3 movies together, and we had a lot of fun watching them, I think. Whatever the next Harry Potter thing is, if it feels like it's in that same vein as Fantastic Beasts, I think we should cover it. I'm gonna throw out 2 quick ones, and then I'll have one last one to do after you.
Okay.
Just these kind of run hand in hand for the most part. I feel like streaming originals in quotes and generic animated movies, just both of which generic is the key word. Just Drek.
With trendy celebrities instead of real voice actors.
Yeah, I feel like there's not actually, both feel like a computer just spat them out, that there wasn't much human involvement. There's not a lot of creativity. They're just annoying. They're just a waste of time. I feel like that's oftentimes what you will see in a lot of everything I've listed so far is 1, lack of creativity, 2, waste of time. What you're not seeing on this list is like ridiculously fun, bad movies. For example, off the top of my head, I absolutely love the Super Mario Brothers movie from the early 90s. Terrible film, but that's never going to show up on a list like this for me because there's a lot of creativity. It's dumb and it's bad, but you can see the effort. There's a lot of like craft work in like the designs and the costumes and the world. And these movies that I'm talking about, and I feel like this is most epitomized in generic animated films such as Illumination would be the worst case scenario. Or a lot of stuff that you find on streaming, like movies that are specifically made for streaming, they're just so bland. And it's because they don't respect their audience. Animated movies, because they're designed for kids and they think kids are dumb and watch whatever. And streaming movies, because they're designed for people to watch on their phones. So they're specifically designed to be seen easily. Like they hold on shots a long time, very simple editing, there's no complexity to them because they have to be easy to watch while half paying attention on a TV or like watching on your phone and you're on the bus and there's a bunch of sound. This is the worst possible kind of filmmaking. Both of those examples of where you just do not respect you not only don't respect your audience, it's disrespectful to the audience. You are telling the audience, this is as good as you are. This is all you deserve. You don't deserve. We could make whatever we wanted. Like, honestly, animated kids films in streaming, they're going to make their movie anyways. They'll make their money anyways. They could make whatever they wanted. And they're saying, this is all you deserve. We are not going to put in any more effort into this. That, to me, is worst case scenario for, and unfortunately that is like the trend of things, is just to make things as generic as possible because it's easy and it's fast.
Makes me think of like the Minecraft movie. And
I will say they released another trailer and they make a joke about kids yearning for the mines. And dang it, if I am hesitant to actually say that is pretty darn funny. The rest of the movie might be terrible, but man, does that not have me slightly interested? If that is indeed the sense of humor they're going for, if the movie does lean into its own ridiculousness, it might be good. It's probably awful. It's probably way more similar to Sonic, but at least a tiny smidge of light in that. It's a really obvious joke, but man, they did it. That's a risky joke to make, honestly. Mm-hmm. Like, you're joking about kids yearning for the mind, even though it's a joke online. To put that in the trailer for a kids movie, I respect it, even if the rest of the movie's garbage. What else do you have on your list?
Okay, I have a couple more, but one thing that, and these two maybe tie together, but I'm really kind of getting tired of like good guy heroes that aren't actually good guys.
Okay.
And I'm not talking about like anti-heroes, but like, I don't know. I really kind of want to bring back like the good old-fashioned good Superman and like good
Absolutely.
Batman that
I totally
care
agree.
about people.
Yes.
I'm really kind of tired. Maybe this kind of ties in. I'm so tired of like old man finds child and hates everyone except for this child.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's been, I think it's getting overplayed. It's in Wolverine. It's in Mandalorian. It's in The Last of Us. It's very 2010s such thing to do. But like, I don't know. I just kind of want feel good superhero movies again.
Yes.
And I don't think I feel like there's been so much of getting away with that and trying to appeal to older audiences. We got to make it gritty and we got to make it dark or the adults aren't going to want to see it. And it's like, I don't know. I'm tired and I want to use a couple.
I'm tired
of this. I'm so tired of the Reddit edginess.
Yeah.
That everyone is leaning into, like the dark grittiness. And there are a couple of examples I think of. There's a comic and I can't remember what it is. What it's called, but Superman. Look, DC Comics are wild. You know, they're wild. Superman goes to Atlas, who is literally holding up the world, and takes his place for a day. So Atlas can have a day off.
Huh.
Hear me. Stick with me. And the whole day, everyone was like, Superman is missing and all these bad things are happening. Superman is gone for a day, and every other superhero steps in to help Metropolis while he's gone. It's very much, we'll handle it from here, Superman. It's so nice. And he lets Atlas have this day off because for some reason the Greek gods are in DC. I don't know. And it's just like very good, feel good, self-sacrificial. I think another thing that does this, another example that does this well is, that was kind of recent. I thought it was really refreshing how at the end of the Batman film, we're seeing Batman help people in Gotham out of the stadium in the flooded city. That was, I really liked that because I think, I can't remember who said it, but there's kind of a famous quote that's like, there is a humanity to Batman that if you just make him like an evil guy who punches someone, he's just Punisher in a mask.
Yes.
I don't remember who said that. Props to whoever said that. But that was, I thought that was so refreshing because we're like, Batman cares about the people. And there's an from Batman the Animated Series, like the original card. I watched that whole show. It's got some funny moments, but there's an episode where it's the main villain Baby Doll, where she's an adult actress in like basically a very small child's body just for some
she didn't really
condition.
Physically age.
No, she didn't physically age. And she's a villain because she's upset. She wants to be treated like an adult. And there's actually a very kind of, I I don't call it bittersweet, but there's a moment where she's effectively crashing out, like having her breakdown. And honestly, you know, Batman could have like flown out of nowhere and punched this 7-year-old sized woman, but he doesn't. He like talks to her. And I just think, I don't know, I'm really kind of tired of the rough and tumble superheroes. I'm like, can we bring back some, I don't know, feel good humanity heroes?
No, I think this is a really good point. And I had a secondary thought based on the last thing I said, and I think it ties in very nicely with what you're talking about. As I was thinking about generic streaming movies, generic animated films, what they say about their audience, that you don't deserve better. Art, like what you're talking about, that has heroes that are trying to achieve something worthwhile and not just rooting for people to beat up the bad guy. The art tells something about humanity. If our quote-unquote art is generic and slop and uncreative and doesn't mean anything, or it's overly violent and is just about crushing your enemies into dust, that says something about a society. As opposed to why Superman and other superheroes were popular in the first place was because they are a metaphor of what we think a hero should be. That's an incredible message just to send your audience. And additionally, like, if these things are good, like making art for people and trying to tell them something and trying to convey something, because that is why I get really frustrated. A slight tangent, I'll bring it back around because this is relevant. I get really frustrated at people when they tell me, I don't want my movies to have to say anything. They don't need to try to preach to me. I just want entertainment. Every single movie is telling you something. Whether it means to or not, or whether you realize it or not, it's an indicating. So the most generic say-nothing movies are actually undermining your intelligence and your value as a being. Art is a reflection of the fact that God created for us. God created creation. That word creation is so beautiful because it implies that God crafted everything you see. Everything you see that is the beauty in everything is not an accident. It's not our reptilian brain just liking pretty colors. It's that God implanted in your mind, listener, in your heart, in your soul to react to the beauty he created for you, because he wants you to feel his love. And when us as humans, when we create and make worthwhile art that means something to us, that we're trying to convey some even if when we disagree with it, it's totally acceptable to disagree with the objective of the art, but to respectfully disagree, to engage with it, and especially when it is doing something beautiful, that's an incredible act that we get to engage with each other as God wants us to love one another, as opposed to crap that is nothing. We're doing the devil's work by making generic garbage. And so yes, I'm gonna plant my flag and say that good guy heroes is the work of Jesus.
I also think, to go back a little bit, Spider-Man needs to go back to being the friendly, emphasis neighborhood Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That is where he is best. That is what I think, actually, I won't talk too much about this, but that is why I always liked Spider-Man. He's literally an everyday dude. Well, he's not an everyday dude. He got bit by a spider and he's got magic powers. At his heart, he's an average guy.
Who a superhero is before they become a superhero is super significant to who they are as a superhero.
And that is what I really think the Marvel that's what I think Tom Holland Spider-Man is lacking. Okay. He went from Spider-Man straight to jumping across the planet and into space. It is, I think it's hard to resonate with him as a Spider-Man because something that's so integral to Spider-Man as a person is the love his city has for him, unless you're the daily paper. Unless you hate him.
The Daily Bugle.
The Daily Bugle. And we get a piece of this in Into the Spider-Verse when the first Spider-Man dies. The whole city is mourning. And in, I can't remember which the original Spider-Man trilogy it is, when he stops the train.
Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Man 2. And they're like, he's just a kid. That when they're passing him back into the train, I think it leans into, and we talk about this a lot, it leans into those movies, that indomitable human spirit. There's something so precious and sacred of humanity's love for each other, which, comes from God. But so when you see that in media, it's so refreshing to be reminded of that. And I think, love for your everyman. So anyways, all that to say, bring back good heroes.
Sure.
I will say the beginning of the Batman, it was kind of wild to see Batman absolutely pummel 20 guys in the subway tunnel.
That is, but what you're getting at though, a really great point. I have a lot of thoughts. What you just said about the Batman 2021, that is the eventual point of the movie, is that he starts off super brutal and is just a vigilante. At the end, he becomes an actual hero, saving people.
He becomes the hero of Gotham after he got roided up for a second.
Yeah. And
I think you see that change where I think he has the option to go after the Riddler, and he looks down into the bottom of the stadium, and there's people trying not to drown, and he makes that choice. And I think, I don't know, I think there's some really gorgeous parts of that movie too. Where he jumps down and he turns the flare on.
Yeah, it's a great shot. It's a beautiful shot. I have mixed feelings about what you said about the Tom Holland Spider-Man movie, but I do think you have a great point about the two. It's definitely true that none of the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies are as good as the two examples you gave, which is Spider-Verse and Spider-Man 2. That is absolutely true. So, no matter, I do have arguments.
I'm not trying to hate on Marvel.
No, totally fair. No, I think you're right. I do have arguments in favor of his Spider-Man movies that I want to say, but I will say no matter what arguments I would make in favor of them, they are lacking what you said. That I think most people would agree Spider-Man, there are some people who really hate Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, but generally speaking, the general opinion is Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Verse are the two best Spider-Man movies. The fact that they have those elements of Spider-Man,
Tobey Maguire.
We can have a whole discussion about it sometime. Those two movies, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Verse, they have that relationship between Spider-Man and the city. And what is present there is I think a lot of people criticize superhero movies as being like rugged individualism, that the one person, the one man specifically can save the world by himself. That I can understand that reading, but I also think there's a reverse reading, which is what is one person who has the capacity to help others? Well, how far can they go? That we all have different roles in life. A quick side tangent that I think illustrates this really well is I really love Bug's Life as an adult because Bug's Life is an incredible example of a movie that is both about collectivism and individuality. That Flick and the Queen and the circus bugs are all very individuals. They have very specific talents individually. They can do a lot of stuff on their own or as a small group, whereas the rest of the ants are the collective. But at the end of the movie, it takes everyone to defeat the evil grasshoppers. It's a beautiful film about how there are some people who are individuals and there are some people who are more part of the collective. And that's incredible to me. That's such an incredible narrative. And so with a superhero movie, that's just how the world works. There are some people whose skills lend themselves to working on their own, working as on a bigger level, more visible, so that the everyman can do their life. Like, not everyone can be Spider-Man, but Spider-Man has to be Spider-Man so that when the Green Goblin or Dr. Octopus show up, there's someone to combat them. And obviously these are very broad metaphors. Life is way more complicated than this, but I do think there's some beautiful beauty in the idea of there's a time in your life potentially where you are Spider-Man. You're not Spider-Man every day of your life, but there is a potential where you have the chance to quote unquote save someone from a Christian perspective, that is bringing the gospel to someone's life through your actions and through your words. We help people, we help each other. And the way the city unites around him is incredible. Yeah, beautiful. Now, what I will say in defense of Tom Holland Spider-Man movies is I do think there's two things they're operating on. One, that's kind of unfortunate, but I understand, is they're operating under the assumption that you've already seen 5 previous Spider-Man movies. They just kind of decided to skip the origin part. So like...
Well, yes, but I feel like they circled back around to it at the end of
They did. They absolutely did. But like, you don't see the actual literal death of Uncle Ben. If that even happened, it's kind of unclear. The bite, the awkward teenage phase, they just kind of, I think somewhat smartly, just assume you've already known that part. It does kind of undermine the movies as their own movies, but as part of when they're coming out, it's like, okay, we got to skip forward because we've already done this twice before. I respect that to some degree, but I think the writing / Holland's performance does bring into you. It is frustrating that he skips straight to Outer Space Adventures. But what he does bring is he does bring a grounding to that. I think of those scenes in Infinity War when they're on the other planet fighting Thanos. They're meeting the Guardians of the Galaxy. They're meeting aliens. So there's aliens and there's spaceships and there's wizards and there is teenage Spider-Man confused and lost and making small jokes. Like, he does not lose that. He actually brings that and grounds the things. That is why the Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good line hit so hard, because that character dying specifically really felt strong. So I would argue that his specific version of Spider-Man does still have that in there, even when he is off fighting aliens. But I do totally agree. Inevitably, when they do more with him, I do look forward to him being, yes, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Absolutely. I only have one more thing, so tell me whenever you're ready to wrap up.
I only just got a few more, and the other ones are quick. And this
it says a lot about us that our longest episode might end up. It's not going to be our longest episode as far as time, but I think longest as far as topics covered is stuff that we hate.
This is kind of similar. I get really tired of people who don't consider movies as for adults unless they have really gratuitous violence.
Interesting.
And yes, I am looking at every single one of you that goes, I want an R-rated Darth Vader show. I personally think Darth Vader is scary enough without having to watch him disembowel a child with all violence on TV. I really don't like that. People are like, well, it's like, well, the adults aren't going to watch it without watching someone's skull get crushed in. I'm probably going to watch it. And actually, if you put that in, I probably won't watch it.
Yeah.
I just think, like I said, I'm just so tired of we got to make it dark. We got to make it edgy for that to happen. I think you can make characters scary and terrifying. Darth Vader's already scary and terrifying. They did it in Rogue One in a scene where all he was in a dark hallway and silence, and he turned his lightsaber on. And that's far scarier than seeing blood splatter.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's one of... Okay, so there's gore in the Alien movies. There is. There's also something really scary about getting grabbed by the alien and they take it away. Not it, sorry. They take the person away.
Yeah.
That alludes to the horror. You can do dark, scary content without ripping someone in half on screen.
Oh, yeah. I mean, absolute most famous example is Psycho, the famous shower stabbing scene. You don't see anything. It is all implied through edits, but you don't ever actually see like a knife go into a person. There's actually nothing actually gory.
Yeah.
There is quote unquote blood. It's black and white and it's infamously Hershey's syrup poured down the sink. It is all accomplished through editing. That is the primary scary thing in that sequence. And it is still scary to this day. I mean, the music's actually the really scary thing. But also the other example, Jurassic Park, PG-13. Jurassic Park is worse if it's rated R. Jurassic Park is so scary. It's also great that it blends like your Steven Spielberg lightheartedness in there, and that actually makes the scary parts scarier. Please continue. Jurassic Park, I just get on it, and so good.
It's just kind of like, it's not necessary. If that's how you're trying to get your adult audience, it's just unnecessary.
Yeah.
It's like the same thing where like, oh, it's like adult animation. Oh, we got to put a bunch of sex jokes in there. The adults aren't going to watch it. I don't know. That was really it was just kind of short. And yeah, I'm harping on all the people like, R-rated Darth Vader. Watching him snap the neck of a 12-year-old was pretty brutal in Kenobi.
Yeah, that's true.
That was pretty brutal. I was kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah, two examples of that. One, I really loved Jenny Tartarsky, but Primal, just too much for me. Like a beautifully animated movie. I'm glad he got to make it.
Apparently, they're making a third season.
Really interesting.
The end of the second season. Oh my gosh. Oh.
So just like I think you can go too far. Like you have the right to make that whatever, but like as for me, as we're talking about things we don't like, I totally agree with you. That's a show that I just thought went too far that I really wanted to enjoy and I respected.
Actually, oh sorry, continue.
No, please.
That's another show that I feel like got unnecessary universification.
Interesting. Okay.
Have you seen anything past season 1?
No.
Okay, so do you care if I spoil it for you just a little bit?
Go for it. I have no interest in watching it more.
After season 1, so you have the main character who is a caveman. They start introducing all these other random, highly more advanced, when I say advanced, like evolutionarily advanced
Interesting.
Civilizations like the Vikings.
Okay.
And Egypt and Assyria. And suddenly it's not really dinosaurs anymore. It's more like caveman and dinosaur caught up in.
Interesting.
This is like when you're playing Civilization and the scout you created at 200 BC suddenly encounters another civilization that's like in their science era. If you played the game, you know what I'm talking about. Like, it's wild, and it just falls so flat immediately. But yeah, no. There's something it's very brutal. But yeah, it gets to a point where I'm like, okay.
Yep.
And the second season's so bad.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's just the violence on steroids.
Just like things like The Boys or the animated show that's almost the exact same thing on Amazon. That's based off the comic Invincible. Yeah, like I watched the first season of The Boys, enjoyed it, but I could see it was only gonna escalate.
Everything I learn about The Boys and Homelander is against my will.
Sure. I've listened to podcasts. I've heard like summaries of what happens after season 1. And it just seems like 1, it's just more of the same. And 2, it's not increasingly interesting plot wise. From what I can tell, it's just increasing violence.
Factor.
Yeah. And I could see that Invincible's probably the same thing. I'm not trying to undermine these things. I'm just saying that for me, the level of violence does not lean into it. There are things where I think, quote unquote, violence or gore can heighten it. What I always go to is the movie 127 Hours, which is James Franco falls into a thing and gets his arm caught.
Do you know it's based off a real story?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's why it's incredible. I think the way they are able to replicate that harrowing experience, I think there's significant art to that. I think that there is actually something well accomplished there.
All Quiet on the Western Front.
I've heard that one's pretty brutal.
Holy crap. I haven't seen it, but I've heard things.
Yeah. Guy who produced that actually went to high school in this city that we currently live in, that we don't mention the name of.
Oh.
Yeah.
Shoot, you're going to get doxxed.
He's originally German, I think, but he was like exchange student or something.
Or like something else came to mind that I totally forgot what it was.
Rick and Morty also fell into this. Like, I really loved the first like 2 seasons of Rick and Morty, and it just like kept escalating on all levels. Immaturity, sexuality, like these are things. These are things I think that can be used well. I am not above any of that. I'm not trying to make it seem like I'm above any one of these things.
We're not holy rolling.
It's just that when they are, 1, not used well, 2, used just for their own sake, and 3, used just way too much. I think that's what we're getting at.
Yeah, it's just there's something else I was thinking of and I can't remember what it was. We just won't know apparently.
What else do you have on your list?
Okay, these are super short. Hiding musicals.
So this is more marketing than the actual thing itself.
Hiding music. And we're looking at you, Joker 2.
Joker 2, the Mean Girls remake from last year.
And honestly,
Wonka.
The one thing that was really odd is so the Wicked Part 1 is coming out.
Yeah,
which is based off a Broadway musical, which is based off a book.
They don't show them singing at all.
No, they don't. They have only just now, like within the past, I feel like couple months, implied that, hey, this is based off the musical. FYI, they are now releasing the book with the movie cover. Do not buy that book for your child.
Oh, interesting. I don't know if any of our listeners have children.
I did read this in middle school or high school, but I'm just saying, like, if your elementary schooler picks it up and goes, I want to read about Ariana Grande as Glinda, do not. It is not the same.
I see.
The Broadway cuts out so much from the book. It's not a children's book. It's not a children's book. It's not a children's book. Anyways, but yeah, hiding musicals is annoying.
Totally understand.
They kind of did it with Mufasa. Well, okay, I don't want to say you can hide a musical for a Disney film because they all have music. They kind of did it with Mufasa too, the new movie that's coming out. The first couple teasers had like no music, and then suddenly they're like, I guess they're singing. It's still that's unclear.
Crazy. You know
they
what?
have played music that it's not clear if those characters will sing or not.
That's wild. It feels like that movie should have come out years ago. It's just like the fact that you mentioned that movie and it has not come out yet. It feels like it's been like
it's not
coming for so long.
It's not related to the original canon. I would like to clarify.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, my final one. So I've waxed poetic about these things I think are bad for the medium, bad for us as humans, bad for our heart, bad for our soul. This final one is just my own personal vendetta that I can't really back up that well. I just hate this guy, James Cameron. This is probably my hottest take on this whole thing because obviously...
Ironic.
Yeah, I know. His last name is my first name. Yeah, great. This guy...
We actually have James Cameron with us tonight.
Well, I did not know he's Canadian. That's probably why I hate him. No, that's fine. Oh. I don't have anything against Canadians. Director, famous director, movies. Actually does not have that many movies, but they're almost all very famous. Aliens... is the second film. Okay, technically he made Piranha 2, but like first real movies, The Terminator, then Aliens, The Abyss, Terminator 2, True Lies, Titanic. Some documentaries, Avatar 2, and then Avatar 3 through 8 or whatever.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 through 24.
I honestly don't even see any of these movies and think, man, I really hate those movies. It's just, okay, first off, I really don't like the way he tells stories. I think he is too in over his head. His movies are too long. I think, like, for example, Titanic. If Titanic was just everyone else on the Titanic, like, the part, when you get to the Titanic, you get to the part where the ship is sinking, and you're showing, like, obviously, like the band, the musicians who are like, it's our last, we're going down with the ship. I don't remember exactly what they say, but something beautiful. And they start playing and they go down with the ship. Like, that's great. Like, there are moments in that movie that are amazing. But the fact that it is like 75% this stupid love story that is not, to me, not compelling or interesting. You're giving me this look. What is this look? Do you love Titanic?
Yeah.
That's fine. Most people do. Statistically, I'm wrong. Because all of these movies, people love these movies. I don't even really hate them. It's probably unfair.
Cameron hates Titanic survivors. 2024.
Okay. No, it's probably unfair to base one's opinion on the popularity of these movies. Honestly, if I discovered these movies and these were unknown and no one ever knew about them, I'd probably think they were amazing. But it's the fact that these are considered greatest movies of all time, and I just do not think that they are. And they are movies that, like, I would love to rewatch, but they're so freaking long. He doesn't have... I feel James Cameron is an incredible director in the sense of his shots are beautifully made. He knows how to make an action sequence. He knows how to use visual effects. He's always at the groundbreaking edge of them. While I don't love that Avatar really helped to usher in this era of just movies that are just entirely CGI. They are, and also I think the design of of Avatar is just boring. It's just a forest world. Like, I honestly find Return of the Jedi more compelling visually on Endor, which is just a forest in California.
It's the California redwoods.
Anything visually in Avatar 1, is that my opinion.
It's because the Ewoks are cuter than the aliens.
Yeah, and then I don't think the Na'vi are very interesting. I just think this movie is just boring to look at. I don't think the love story at the heart of Titanic is very good. I find in Terminator 2, young John Connor really annoying. I know he's supposed to be, but I still think it's like not good. Like, I don't think just because you write a teenage character, I think does not give you the pass to write a bad character. He's supposed to be the heart of the movie, and I freaking hate every word that comes out of his mouth. My point I'm getting at here is these are the core of each movie, and I hate them, and I think they're bad.
I hate him.
And so I guess to me, what everyone sees as one of our greatest directors, I see someone who could be if he would get out of his own way.
Cameron sees someone who would fight on the street.
If you gave him a hard cap at 90 minutes
oh my gosh,
for each of these movies,
yeah,
I think they would be some of my favorite movies. The only exception for me, though, is Aliens, because I think Aliens ruins everything that's great about Alien. We were talking about the subtlety of... subtlety is probably... The fact that there's one alien. The fact that you have one alien, you don't know where he's going to come from. He's unkillable. He's going to come out of nowhere and grab you and pull you into the dark. That is so amazing with that first film. Aliens, plural, the moment it becomes plural... it's no longer interesting to me. All I can ever remember from Aliens is that there is a hallway of xenomorphs and they're mowing them down with a machine gun turret. You've totally undermined everything incredible that xenomorph. You've shown them die. Theoretically, we should never see a xenomorph die, in my opinion.
Once you kill the monster, it's not scary anymore.
Like, it should be like, I'm trying to think, like, there's like all the work, like the incredible line in Avengers Infinity War, just off the top of my head, all that for a drop of blood. Like, all the work they put into to just make Thanos barely bleed, that should be the xenomorph. Like, it should be like there should have been one, like, if you've seen the trilogy, the way that they go back to it, there's one, as far as I can remember, or there's like two in Alien 3. Not only Alien 3 is perfect, but it ends with, spoilers, Ripley sacrificing herself to kill the alien. Mm-hmm. That's a perfect ending for the trilogy, is that the only way for Ripley to finally kill this freaking thing is to sacrifice herself.
And then they bring her back.
Yeah, well, so I guess it's not that I don't want James Cameron to exist as a director. His movies have done a lot he is definitely well above. Like, he's definitely better than, like, Michael Bay, for example. Like, Michael Bay does have talent, but is a bad director for the most part. James Cameron knows what he's doing. I just really wish he would make shorter movies that were more succinct, that he would focus on moments, that he would focus on actually telling a good story rather than thinking he can tell 2-hour, 3-hour movies. Now, I will say, I think he's progressed as a director. I do think Avatar 2 is pretty good. I do think that is a movie that actually is paced well. I think transitioning into the water part is actually really beautiful. I think there are actually interesting ideas. I think whereas Avatar 1 is too black and white.
You can say Pocahontas.
Absolutely. It's just not interesting. I think I really hate Avatar 1. I think Avatar 2 is actually dealing with interesting ideas, and I actually like that movie quite a bit, and I had a good time seeing it in the theater. So I do actually have hope for the Avatar series, because I think that there's actually something to do with this. Also, they, with more modern visual effects, and they've done more to make the Na'vi more individualized as characters. They are better designed now. So I do have hope for him as a director. I will definitely be seeing the next Avatar in theater, so I might be a hypocrite. That is all to say, that's one of my big things that I hate, and would love to cover the next movie on the podcast, I guess.
Oh, okay. My last one, very short. My least favorite plot point is the miscommunication plot points.
Oh my god!
Yes. Have a conversation.
Yes.
With your fellow adult. You have a whole 90 minutes focused on someone misheard something, and it's so I hate it. That's it. I hate it. It makes me so mad.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, movies that would be solved if people talk like people. Not likes it, but what's really stuck on superhero movies today? Batman v Superman.
Martha!
At the end, when Superman shows up to fight Batman, Superman could have just easily explained what was going on to Batman, and they wouldn't have fought. Or, I think sometimes writers act like they have to write things a certain way. You're the writer. You have total control. Yeah. You can, in that scenario, write so that he tries to explain to Batman, and Batman doesn't believe him or refuses to listen. That could have happened. Instead, they wrote it in such a way that it feels totally contrived. Yeah, lying or slash just not having a conversation. So annoying. Good. Anything else on your list?
That's all I got.
Well, this was fun.
Everything else I don't like, we've complained about every single other episode.
So I guess we have to cover Hunger Games movies in the future if they make them.
They're making another one.
Yeah. I have not actually seen the prequel one because I hate the series so much.
I haven't either because it was all over my TikTok, and I get really frustrated when things get I don't know. It's one of my red flags. I get really frustrated when things get super popular sometimes.
Yeah.
And also, everyone was, I think, entirely missing the point and thirsting over young Snow.
Uh-huh.
And that just makes me mad sometimes. I'm like, gosh.
But yeah, we're already going to cover the Jurassic World movie. It's probably going to be terrible, but hopefully our boy Gareth Edwards can save it.
Boy.
Don't really have any interest of covering future live action, though. If you really wanted to talk about Mufasa, I'd be open to the idea.
I think I'd rather wait till it comes out on streaming.
Sure.
And so, because
it'll probably come out in our down era period, so we probably won't have anything.
Our flop era.
We're in our bored era. That's going to be us from January to April. It is going to be us the podcast is going to be, all right, 50 days until Andor Season 2. See you later, folks.
It was our 50 days since seeing Andor.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so meme minute, but it's longer than a minute.
I have 3.
I think I have 1. We actually are trying to get meme minute down to 1 minute. Look at us. Show me one of your memes.
It's a very common template. It's captioned, "My wedding, guy dressed very casually, hoodie, pajama pants. Andor Season 2, April 22nd, and the guy's dressed up in a full suit and tie."
Good. Very relevant. This just came across my feed. My son was rude, so I deep fried his Megatron.
I had a nickel for every person that has sent me that in the last 2 weeks. It's happened multiple times.
What I love about it is you can tell that it's Megatron. Like, it has his basic, he's got a silhouette that you can tell.
It's not a Gundam.
It might be a Gundam.
There's a trend where people were like, got mad at my son, so I deep fried his Transformer. It's a Gundam.
Oh, this is not Megatron.
I don't know. It's not the same image. Let me see.
It looks like Megatron. So he's covered in breading.
It might be. I'm just saying
stuff.
There's another trend where it's Gundams.
I see. Show me your other meme.
This is a template from a screenshot from Hinge where people can answer prompts about themselves. Sure. And the prompt is, "The dorkiest thing about me is ... And the prompted answer was, "I struck a child with a motor vehicle, but the picture on the dating profile is Mechagodzilla." Original Mechagodzilla.
Very good. I want to see if I have any saved videos.
Crunchin'.
So I sent this to you. I might as well.
I sent you a lot of stuff on Instagram.
Oh, no. Yeah, okay. I sent this to you. I might as well play it. I sent this to you. So this is a clip from the 90s show Sabrina the Teenage Witch. She had a black cat who could talk.
Named Salem.
And this is a clip of him. I sent this to you saying, this is Athena. I think if we had her on the podcast or talking about the podcast, I don't remember. I'll play it.
Your life as a cat? Yes. The urinary tract problems? No. Giving back to the community? Yes. Gotten any strays in trouble? No. Still want to take over the world? Yes. Wait, no. I meant no. No!
So the context is that Salem...
Let it go.
Don't ask.
Yeah, that's Athena on the podcast.
The context is that Salem has been cursed to live as a cat because he wanted to take over the world. So that was his parole officer he was answering to, and he failed.
Very good.
This is my last image. No words, just.
That's really good. It's subtle. I mean, it's simple, but that's funny. I'll let you explain it.
It's very popular like meme in 2016 where the guy is walking with his girlfriend and he's turning around looking at the other girl walking past, and the guy is the Matrix of leadership. The girl holding hands with him is Sentinel Prime from Transformers 1, and the other girl is Optimus. It's so fun. It's good.
I forgot. I actually made a meme for the thumbnail of last week's episode.
You did. I saw it.
So for last week's episode, it's it's a comic, and it's not Transformers. Sorry, not the Powerpuff Girls, Cameron. The Power Rangers all putting their hands in, and one puts it in and it says writing, and the other one says animation, the other one voice acting, humor, characters, and this is after our last Airbender, and then another hand comes and it looks different and it says Momo, and it's all the Power Rangers looking at, it's a Teletubby, and the Teletubby is Momo. I'm quite proud of this editing. I made all the other Power Rangers look like the Avatar characters. So you can see that on our Instagram or at the thumbnail for the podcast for last week's episode.
Should I say this one?
Maybe
not.
Nah, it's good. We don't want to be those kind of Christians. On pod, we are respectful of other religions. On mic, off mic, maybe not so much.
Is a funny meme about sometimes when people knock on your doors and ask you questions.
Certain religious sects who come and knock on your door, they claim to have witnessed a particular figure and wear certain particular black and white outfits. Well, this was fun. I really enjoyed this. I let Rachel pick our topic, and I'm really glad we did it.
He gave me a list because if he let me have free reign.
I told you I was open to other ideas. These were just my ideas. But this is a good choice. Next time, first 2 episodes of Skeleton Crew.
I know.
It's almost Thanksgiving time. Rachel, I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for our podcast times. It's a ton of fun. Oh. And I'm thankful that we have something to talk about for next week's episode.
Thank God.
And I think I'm really excited. I mean, it's funny that we talked so much about the Tom Holland Spider-Man because John Watts, who created the show, did all 3 of those movies. So, and Tom Holland's brother has already been in Star Wars. He was the voice of the Mon Calamari, who was like in love with the other. I don't know the name of the other species from that planet that they're at war with.
Some fish
in the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
So what do you think is the over/under on Tom Holland showing up in Skeleton Crew?
I cry.
I think there's a good chance. I mean, he's probably a voice. I put my money on it.
Rips off his mask. It's actually Tom
Holland.
Man,
if there's like a flashback and young Jude Law's character is Tom Holland, or the little elephant boy rips off his mask and it turns out to be Tom Holland.
We're actually going to see The Stranger the Second, and it's Tom Holland.
The Stranger?
From Acolyte.
Oh, right. Yeah. Also, what's our over/under on The Mandalorian, i.e., or Grogu showing up? I mean, they're in the same time period. There's technically a chance.
I don't really want to.
I don't think they will. I really don't. I think of all the things, Disney is pretty good at not doing things people already have said they hate. They're good at inventing new things to do that people hate, but normally if people have a really strong reaction to something, they stop doing it. And I think after how much people really hated him showing up in Book of Boba Fett, I think there's a really good. I really doubt that we'll see him.
What if Boba Fett shows up? Oh my god!
I mean, it will be interesting to see what is the most ham-fisted cameo.
Lost Tusken Raider tribe show up.
I'd be down for it.
They weren't on Tatooine to help Boba because they left the planet.
Thank you guys so much for listening. This is always a blast. I hope you enjoyed us being haters, because haters are gonna hate. As always, thank you to Caleb Jacoby, the musician, for making our intro and outro music that we don't hate, that we love. Props to Rachel for our artwork and Twitter account at Rebels and Robots Pod.
Thanks to Cameron for our Facebook and our Instagram.
And thank you to Athena, our editor.
Do you see how she...
Oh, wow. She is a pancake over there.
Do you see how she has been waiting so patiently to be fed, but now she looks a little fed up?
But she has food in her bowl.
I know.
Things Athena hates, not being fed on time.
Correct.
Give us something to read on the pod. Leave a review. Tell us if this podcast is something that you hate. Tell us the things that you really hate that maybe we should cover on the podcast. This is Cameron and Rachel signing off saying, you didn't know it, but there was a sequel tease on the table the whole time, and we'll talk about it the next time.
Join us next week as Rachel talks about her feet.
Oh. No! I'm so glad I left it recording.
Oh no! I don't like that.